Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Coming Distractions brought to you by the Nerdpocalypse podcast. I'm your host, Jay, just solo this week. I am back to review Star Wars The Last Jedi. Obviously, this is the huge movie, probably the biggest movie of the year for all us nerds and geeks. Look, guys, I just got out of this movie yesterday. It was very exciting. I am happy to say Star Wars is in excellent hands. That is the quick, fast review. Go see it. It's great. Now we got all the fear. Everyone was like, oh, is it going to be good? Is it not going to be good? Let's talk about the details. So this was directed by Rian Johnson, probably most famous for doing Looper a couple of years ago. And the news had broken that Rian Johnson would be handling a completely new trilogy after this trilogy is over. I am happy to say that Star Wars is in great hands. It really is. Obviously, this movie is starring Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Adam Driver, and Oscar Isaac. This takes place after episode 7, picks up right where that left off. You already know the story if you're watching this review. You know what's happening. Obviously, I'm not going to do any spoilers because there's a lot of big events that happen in this movie, in the Star Wars universe, and of course, with this trilogy in general. I will just say that all of the acting is great. It is, if you liked what you saw in episode 7 as far as character development, and the uniqueness of those characters and sort of some of the connections to the original trilogy and what have you, then you're going to be right in place. I personally thought episode 7 was sort of designed. A lot of people had comments about episode 7 being so similar to episode 4, which obviously it did, but I think that was more to get people back on board after the sort of the bad taste everyone had in their mouth about the prequels. This is really the first movie, the first new Star Wars movie that sort of takes its own creative license, right? So it is forging a new path, and this is Rian Johnson putting his proverbial nerd dick on the table and saying, check this out. He absolutely crushes it as director. It is absolutely fantastic. He also wrote this, which is really impressive. It's a lot of fun. It's got the same fun and feel of a classic Star Wars movie. It doesn't just rehash Star Wars tropes that you know. They kind of play on that a little bit by sort of doing a lot of misdirection, like, oh, we're going to do this thing just like they did in the original trilogy. And then they kind of just go a completely different direction with it, which is great because it keeps you guessing as a fan. The storyline in and of itself, I don't want to get into spoilers, so I'd rather not tell you exactly what's going on, but there's sort of almost like a countdown sort of situation that's happening where Daisy Ridley's character, Rey, is trying to bring Luke back into the Rebel Alliance so that he can help, because obviously she thinks that he's the only way that they're going to beat the New Order. Meanwhile, you have Poe Dameron and Finn sort of fighting together to try to help with this countdown clock sort of situation that's happening. Again, that's all I'll say about that. But they all have their parts to play. There is, sort of the loose. Rey is kind of the Luke of this, of this trilogy. Finn, I suppose, would be Han, and then Poe is sort of like a Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia character, not as far as royalty and the Force and all, but just in his sort of military position in the film, right? I would say that there are a couple of things that are really important to look for here when you actually go see the movie. One of which being, this is an excellent send-off to legacy characters in this Star Wars universe. Obviously, Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher are those two characters I'm talking about. That doesn't mean like death or anything like that in the film. I won't get into that. But they give them such a great moment to come together with this new cast. I really thought Harrison Ford got a really good chance to be on screen with the new characters in episode 7. Carrie Fisher is far more involved. She's involved in this movie way larger than I thought she would be since she died in real life. So that was surprising. Mark Hamill is great. It's great to see him back. Adam Driver, I thought was, I enjoyed him as Kylo Ren in Episode 7, but he's far better here. You get some questions answered about him, which are really interesting. You get some questions answered about a lot of other characters with Rey and her background, Snoke. There are plenty of questions that are answered, and then there are plenty of questions created, which I thought was really smart for the upcoming Episode 9. Look, for me, as a Star Wars fan, I can't help but say that this is a 5 out of 5 for me. I don't know whether or not I would put it. My personal favorite Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back. I don't know that I would put it above Empire, but I'm not so sure I would put it below it either. It's right there. It really is. It's damn good. It's great filmmaking. It's got some of the best cinematically. It's got some of the best Star Wars scenes, if not the best cinematic scenes I've seen in a Star Wars film. Period. Like, it really does. There's some like new vehicles that are shown and stuff like that, which are really cool. But Rian Johnson absolutely proves that he is the right guy to take Star Wars into this future direction. And I have every bit of faith in him that he can do it. Again, Star Wars The Last Jedi is excellent. It is absolutely excellent. Go see it without equivocation or anything. If it's not my favorite Star Wars movie, it's number 2 by like this much. It's tiny. Again, if you loved Episode 7 and or you even just liked Episode 7 because you thought it was a rehash of Episode 4, guess what? Episode 8 is a totally new ball game, and they are absolutely nailing it. So check it out. Star Wars The Last Jedi is in theaters this week, and we will see you guys next time on Coming Distractions. Make sure you go to comingdistractionspod.com or subscribe to Coming Distractions on whatever iTunes or Google Play or what have you, whatever podcast listener you listen to. And you can also watch these videos on youtube.com/the Nerdpocalypse, and we will see you guys next time.